Why is it I feel so adrift in the modern world? Why does everything seem somehow so utterly overwhelming? And why do I keep dreaming about tsunamis? Britain is defined by its relationship with the sea, but could it have influenced not just the coastline of the British Isles, but who we are as people? I was on a journey to understand my connection to an ancient land that was swallowed by waves thousands of years ago. A real-life Atlantis submerged beneath the North Sea. Could I somehow learn profound truths about who we are now by how they lived then? This is a journey that will take us across land and sea and back into deep time. It's a story about who we are and where we've ended up. It's a story about a land that was lost a long time ago. And also, there's a bit where we go on a boat. As long as I can remember, I've been scared of the sea, its size, its power, its depth, its mystery. I've even had a recurring dream since I was a kid of being washed away by a huge wall of water, just being isolated while everyone around me has been submerged. None of that has come from anywhere. I never got shipwrecked. I never fell overboard. I did nearly drown 3 times, but I've got a theory that it might somehow be linked to what happened out there in the North Sea 8,000 years ago.
During the Mesolithic period, between 10,000 and 6,000 BCE, Britain wasn't an island, but a peninsula of the European mainland. A vast landscape of rivers, lakes, forests and plains connected Britain to the Netherlands and Denmark. You could literally walk from Yorkshire to France, while the Thames flowed east to join the Rhine. This lost land is known today as Doggerland, a rich habitable world teeming with deer, aurochs, wild boar and bands of hunter-gatherers. But by 6000 BCE, most of it was gone, drowned beneath what we now call the North Sea. Even today, fishermen dredge up bones, flint tools and fragments of human skulls, traces of our ancestors.
We wanted to get closer to Doggerland to see if it could shed any light on my tsunami dream. But little did I know that what we'd find would change my entire perception of who I am. The bloody drone's got in a tree and it flew in the tree and a million flies came out and now I've got to get it out of the tree. This is going to be bad, there's already too many flies. Hey, look, this is
one
hell.
landed on me.
It's hell, there's flies everywhere in this tree. Oh my God, look at the branches, Sanya.
I can see it.
Where?
It's up really high.
Can't see it from this. God, every time I touch a branch, million, billion flying ants come at me. There's horrible creatures in here.
Okay. Oh my God, there's millions of them.
Stupid drone.
Oh my God, there's so many flies, Paul.
I told you. Give me the stick, you get out.
Well, I just need to know. I just need to know where it is.
I'm covered in flies.
Oh my God, you're making them go on me.
Around 8,200 years ago, a massive underwater landslide off Norway, known as the Storegga Slide, sent tens of thousands of cubic kilometres of sediment crashing into the depths. The result? A massive tsunami. When it hit Mesolithic Britain without warning, it surged inland for miles, flooding forests, sweeping through valleys, consuming communities, animals and people, and swallowing the flat plains of Doggerland. At the time, much of Britain's population lived along the coast, and though it's impossible to know the exact number of casualties, some estimates believe it could have wiped out as much as a third of Britain's entire population. Though sea levels had been rising for centuries following the end of the last ice age, this huge wave may have dealt a final blow to Doggerland, transforming Britain into the island it is today.
Sanya, you also had a recurring tsunami dream, didn't you?
Oh my goodness, I had so many. It was like my thing. It was my go-to. I would have them maybe not once a week, but at some points it was once a week. from the ages of about 15 to the age of about 35.
Notably, that was a year after she met me, so what does that tell you?
Wow. Yeah, there were constant tsunami dreams. At first, I thought it was because I grew up by the ocean, so I thought, okay, it's obvious, that's obviously going to be a fear of mine. I live so close to the ocean. But they continued when I moved to England, which also isn't that far from the sea.
Yeah, you're only 60.
You're surrounded by the sea.
60 miles from
but
anywhere. You're never further than 60 miles from the ocean in Britain, apparently. And this is my theory that I want to look into, whether these dreams of tsunamis and floods and the like, whether they're not dreams, but there's some sort of memory.
Ooh, like an ancestral memory.
By the way, I don't like people that sit like this. Generally, it makes them look cocky, like they're posing, but my arse hurts and I had to raise this butt cheek. I sat on a boulder.
For a long time, we thought memory lived only in the brain, shaped by personal first-hand experience. But the science of epigenetics is beginning to tell a different story. Epigenetics looks at how life experiences, especially intense stress, trauma, or sudden environmental change, can leave chemical marks on DNA. Scientists have found that some of these changes can be inherited, passed from parent to child across generations. Researchers have found epigenetic traces in the descendants of Holocaust survivors. Others have studied populations shaped by war, famine, or forced migration.
What if an event like the Storegga tsunami didn't just erase Doggerland, but etched itself into the biology of those who survived? Take something as specific as a fear of spiders. For our ancestors, being cautious around small venomous creatures could mean the difference between life and death. Over time, that instinct may have been reinforced not just through behaviour, but biologically. Some scientists believe that traumatic encounters, a bite, a death, even witnessing danger, could leave epigenetic marks tied to fear and stress. Those marks might then be passed on, priming future generations to react with heightened sensitivity, even if they've never seen a spider before. So if our ancestors stood on the shores of Doggerland and saw that wall of water racing towards them, if they lost their homes, their family, their friends, is it possible that some small part of that fear still lives in me? Maybe my dream is actually a warning.
Perhaps we should stop calling them Mesolithic people and hunter-gatherers and call them just what they are, cowards. Is that too soon? Where's the cut-off rate? So, we recently did a couple of videos about World War II, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable with some of, making jokes. What's the minimum amount of time before you can start taking the piss out of things? It's like 9/11. I noticed, there are now more kind of jokes around 9/11 than there were previously, but you wouldn't have made jokes about that a week after. So when? A year after? 2 years? 3 years? I mean, I think we're safe to call Mesolithic hunter-gatherers names because it was...
You want to call them names?
11,000 years ago. I don't think anyone remembers, I don't think anyone can trace their family tree back to, I don't know what a hunter-gatherer's name would be. Talk. Someone called Talk.
I like to talk.
Talk. Like stalk, but without an S. So Talk the hunter-gatherer, you go back, Talk marries...
Talker.
No, he wouldn't marry, that's his sister.
Quiet girl.
Okay, but maybe they were.
Talk marries quiet girl.
Boing.
Opposites attract.
Okay, no, stop gibbering on. Stop gibbering. I'm trying to make a point about, is it okay if we just rip into hunter-gatherers?
Why don't we just call him Doggerman?
Doggerman. Oh, the sea levels are rising, that's all they talk about these days. Bring back the glaciers, I say. At least then you knew where the coast was. Doggerman from Doggerland. Doggerland? More like Boggerland, am I right? Doggerman, you Kids these days, always complaining. Everything's damp, everything's wet, everything's covered in moss. You try growing up in the Ice Age, son. Back then, you had to spend 2 hours defrosting a block of permafrost just to have a drink of water. But these sea levels, eh? I took my wife to the beach the other day. We lay out our furs on the sand. She relaxed to sunbathe. I went off to hunt us some snacks. Came back 10 minutes later, she'd drowned. I come from Doggerland.
To fully understand, I needed to get closer to the story of Doggerland itself. I needed to understand the world my ancestors came from and how the history of Britain has been shaped by the sea.
So this is Happisburgh Beach. Don't look for Happisburgh on a map because it says Happisburgh. It's one of those strange places that is pronounced differently to how it's spelt. This beach is notable because in 2013 a storm uncovered some footprints. And those footprints were tested by archeologists from the British Museum and found to be the oldest hominid footprints outside of Africa. They were preserved in soft sediment, later washed away by the tide. They were made by a family of 5, a couple of adults, some kids, who at the time, when those footprints were made, around 950,000 years ago, nearly 1 million years ago, those people would have been walking along the banks of what was then the Thames, which was actually further north than it is today. It blows my mind, that time scale. And that really is the beginning of the story of life in the British Isles. Or at least the earliest. There's a fucking helicopter to ruin my otherwise brilliant piece to camera. Crash.
To find out more about Britain's unique relationship with the sea, I spoke to marine scientist Sarah Watts.
Is this part of the coast always quite rough, generally?
It's quite exposed.
Right.
You know, you've got also where the wind, like the prevailing wind is as well. So,
Okay.
and obviously it's a bit kind of blustery and
Yeah.
a little bit wilder out there today. So yeah,
I'll say it is, yeah. What can you tell me about what's under the North Sea?
lots of exciting things. So you've got sand, you've got underlying geology, you've got pebbles, you've got old historic shipwrecks. You've got a whole suite of things that have been there and are ever changing. So they're shaped obviously by the power of the North Sea and a whole suite of features that are constantly changing. As you can see along this coast, along the cliff, you can see that it is exposed to the sea and exposed to the power of the sea. And because of the underlying geology, it's at risk and it does retreat. So it moves somewhere between 2 and 8 meters every year, depending on the storminess and the conditions that it's exposed to each year. And you can see that it's rapidly changing. So when areas get weakened, you can have cliffs slumping. And you can see out there today, we've got some pretty big waves, which are coming along, and it's that wave impact that's coming along. We've got some old sea defences, which you can just see out there, some old groins, and some other protection that we've got protecting these bits of coast, but it is still a rapidly eroding part of the UK coastline.
If the coast is shrinking between 2 to 8 metres a year, does that mean that Britain will eventually be just like postage stamp sized?
No, because that sediment also goes further down the coast. So, you know, you've got all of these constant processes that are happening so that material that's eroded is deposited somewhere else. So, no.
So Britain is just basically changing its shape.
Absolutely, and it's constantly
time.
been doing that. So that material becomes something else, it goes somewhere else. So it's just no longer in this specific location.
See, I suppose that's what so blows my mind, is how this moment in time that we live in is just literally that. It's a snapshot. We look at kind of maps of the British Isles and go, that's just what Britain looks like. But that's not the case, is it?
Absolutely. And historic maps are fantastic for showing that, just how much that coastline has changed. And you may have lived somewhere your entire life, but actually if you look at what that looked like on a historic map, it wouldn't look like that in somebody, you go back many generations and it may have looked very different.
When they found the footprints here, the coast was actually 15 miles that way. But
Crazy,
apparently, the Thames flowed through here. It was an estuary of the Thames. Before that moved south, I guess. Was it north? No, south from here, isn't it? The Thames estuary now,
from
but it
here,
was but it was up here, and it was, I don't know, it's insane
it's
to think that that's
memory,
gone.
isn't it?
The story of the end of Doggerland begins here. This is the North York Moors. 20,000 years ago, this entire area was covered in thick ice sheets that extended all of Northern Europe across to Scandinavia. It was the height of the last ice age, the last glacial maximum, as they call it. That's just a Victorian kiln. Don't look at that. It's got nothing to do with it. But this whole landscape as we see it today was shaped by those glaciers, by the weight of the ice and what happened when those glaciers started to melt. And there's a valley right here to my left that was formed through melting glacier water. And it was the melting of those glaciers around 15,000 years ago that caused sea levels to start rising and Doggerland to start becoming lost.
The last ice age, also known as the Deventian glaciation, reached its peak around 20,000 years ago. At that time, much of Britain was buried beneath a massive ice sheet, stretching as far south as the Midlands. The climate was brutally cold and virtually uninhabitable. In the far north, it was a frozen wilderness. Further south, where the ice hadn't reached, windswept tundra stretched for miles, a land of grasses, low shrubs, and little shelter. Yet even in this harsh world, life found a foothold. Woolly mammoths, reindeer, bison, and woolly rhinoceros roamed these open plains, hunted by predators and by people. Small bands of humans moved with the seasons following the herds, living in caves and shelters and crafting tools from stone, bone, and antler. This was a time of survival, adaptation, and deep connection to the rhythms of the natural world. And as the ice began to retreat, slowly over thousands of years, it birthed new landscapes and new ways of life.
Oh God, there's people coming. We've come up here, right? It's Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday. There's old people everywhere. I think they date back from the Ice Age. They shouldn't be up this high.
Why?
Because they've got thin lungs, like papery lungs, like crepe paper.
But this strength.
It's not safe for them.
This strengthens your lungs.
Not that age.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really places that come with one of those push-along wheelie Zimmer frame things, is it? We're trying to film an important documentary, and they've infested the entire landscape. Bring back the Ice Age when no one lived it, and then we could have filmed.
Paul! The Ice Age. You want the Ice Age to come back? What the heck?
To understand the impact of this landscape, or the landscape as it was here, the glaciers, we need to go further south and jump forward in time by about 5,000 years to when the glaciers started to melt and people started coming back to Britain.
We headed to Creswell Crags, a limestone gorge that literally straddles the border between Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. The caves of Creswell were occupied by Neanderthals until around 40,000 years ago. Roughly 20,000 years later, during the last ice age, they were inhabited by Homo sapiens. Our ancestors left behind tools and the remains of animals that no longer live in Britain. Saber-toothed cats, hippopotamus, and the extinct narrow-nosed rhinoceros. They also left behind the only cave art ever found in Britain.
On the walls of the caves are engravings over 12,000 years old, including some lewd images, specifically a lady's naughty bits, which might have been some sort of fertility symbol, or, just as likely, some prehistoric graffiti that they found funny. We'd visited the caves with my son, Isaac, who happened to mention to one of the archaeologists that he has autism, and how Neanderthal-derived DNA, which most Europeans have to some degree, may play a role in autism susceptibility. The archaeologist commented about how neurodiversity is increasingly coming to be viewed by scientists as an evolutionary adaptation, and that our ancestors would have viewed many of these traits as superpowers. My son Isaac is here and he knows about animals, and he's going to tell us about this animal.
Yeah, this hyena skull. But the interesting thing about skulls like this is you can see this mohawk-like crest on the top of it, and that shows you that the animal has a really powerful jaw. So animals like gorillas and stuff have quite a large crest on top because the jaw muscles will come round and they will attach to that point, allowing them to get more sort of like pressure and power in their bite.
That one's not alive, no?
No.
I need something chrome.
Why?
I need to wipe my fingers on something chrome.
Why?
My fingers smell. Lunch. Smell them. Smell them.
Oh.
They do, don't they? Yeah. What can I wipe them on? They really sting. Isaac, is there anything chrome in here? What? Chrome, my fingers smell. Smell them.
Why do your fingers smell?
Because I got my burger exploded. Taps, you wipe them on taps.
Isn't that if it smells of garlic?
They do smell of garlic. They got aioli on them.
Oh.
That does smell a bit better.
So you washed them after you went to the loo?
I did. I still can't get.
Stainless steel that does it.
That is better. That's a lot better.
There's growing evidence that what we now call neurodiversity, differences in attention, memory, sensory processing and social behaviour, are merely modern problems. In fact, they're ancient adaptations shaped by the environments our ancestors actually lived in. Traits now linked to the ADHD that Paul and I both have, restlessness, impulsivity and high sensitivity, would have been highly useful in a hunter-gatherer world, where scanning for danger, reacting fast and staying on the move were key to survival. By contrast, more structured, routine-based thinking, better suited to farming, didn't become the cultural norm until the Neolithic.
Other researchers have looked at traits common in autism, like intense focus, pattern recognition or reduced concern with social norms, as potentially beneficial in early human contexts, for tool making, tracking or storing knowledge within small cooperative groups. Traits associated with dyslexia, such as strong visual spatial thinking, pattern recognition and creative problem solving, may have been highly beneficial in a hunter-gatherer world. While reading and writing are recent inventions, navigating complex terrain, tracking animals and interpreting signs in nature required the kind of non-linear, big-picture thinking that many dyslexic individuals excel at. Which is all very interesting, but this doesn't explain why I dreamt repeatedly about a bloody tsunami. We drove to Norfolk to speak with someone who might be able to shed some light on it, an old friend who just happened to have a doctorate in psychology and be an expert in dream analysis.
So I've been having my whole life this recurring dream, and I need to get to the bottom of it. I bought this book called 12,000 Dreams Interpreted, which isn't very good. It has, for example, if you dream about cold cuts. Which
I do constantly.
If you dream of slicing cold cuts in a dream, that predicts separation. If you dream of eating cold cuts, you will solve a problem relationship. Yeah, it's A to Z. Throat. Who dreams of throats?
Oh, nice throat dream. That gets me right off to sleep.
Have you ever had a throat?
But just a throat in general. Hang on.
Yeah, to dream of seeing, right? This is what it says. To dream of seeing a well-developed and graceful throat portends a rise in position. If you dream that your throat is sore, you will be deceived in your estimation of a friend. Then we'll have anxiety over the... I mean, what, is it just the throat for the entirety of the throat? Like right up, the dream camera.
I mean, I can understand maybe like sore throat, but just a throat.
Yeah, if you dream of a slender throat. Anyway, the tidal wave, this is what it says, and I don't identify with this. The dream of a tidal wave that is free of debris pretends an amazing career and personal change.
Is this a horoscope book? What's going on?
Basically, it's like, you will meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger. If the water is dirty and carrying debris, it warms of hard times. It's rubbish. So, look, Stuart, you have a doctorate in psychology.
Nothing to do with dreams.
No, I know that, but
It's not going to stop me.
You're the best hope I have at this stage to finding out whether the dream is what it means in terms of my brain.
We'll have a go. It's more, at least the way I will do it, is more working out what everything in the dream means to you, because everything tends to be quite personal. Everybody has different emotional reactions to different stuff, and it's always something emotional.
Right.
So
rather than because my ancestors got wiped out by a tsunami, you think it's more...
that seems to me statistically unlikely, but you never know.
Okay, well, how do we do this?
The first thing to do is I need to know, how often has this dream recurred? When did it start?
I'll be honest, I haven't had it in quite a while.
Okay.
Getting on for 10 years, but
okay.
But it happens so often that...
But not in the last 10 years?
Probably not in the last 10 years, yeah.
And how often would you have it when it was at its peak of happening?
Several times a year, at least.
Okay.
Several times a year, I think. It would always be, I would be somewhere really busy, like a marketplace or some sort of a town or somewhere where there were lots of people, and then there would be the tidal wave, and I would find myself, I mean, even as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, Jesus, this is just like so basic and so obvious what it means. It does. I could have just saved myself a trip.
I like it.
It you know, and I would then find myself completely isolated in the middle of the sea. Either hanging on to some driftwood. One time I was in a rubber ring. Why is that funny?
Sorry.
Why is it funny? It wasn't like a kind of inflatable with like a dinosaur head or something.
Oh.
It's like a life preserver. If you see someone struggling in the sea drowning, are you going to laugh at them?
Depends what the rubber ring is.
Yeah, if it looks like a giraffe. I mean,
This is not how to do a therapy session. Having your wife sat in the corner sniggering.
So sorry, it's a very important part of the process.
Do you do marriage therapy?
You're the therapist, I believe.
Well, yeah, that's how we met. We met not in therapy. Well, on at least one or two occasions, it wasn't the sea; it was like a desert, and I would be as isolated there, because that was the weird thing. It was always the places I was in, the busy markets or whatever. I don't think they were ever modern places. Sounds odd, doesn't it? But they were always kind of like an ancient market or an ancient city. And it was always the same thing. Loads of people everywhere pushing and shoving, and then whoosh, water, and I was isolated on my own.
It starts off, you're somewhere very busy. It's some sort of antiquity market or town. There's a massive sluice of water, tsunami or similar, and at the end of it, you're completely on your own, either in the middle of the sea floating or in a desert.
Yes. Busyness to absolute silence and isolation.
Right, we'll do a form of word associated, but not like, I say fork, do you say spoon, or something like that. More that I will say something from the dream. Try and remember something from your past that's happened in that kind of thing, or perhaps a better way of saying it is, how does that make you feel as a thing? So if I say to you now, a busy place.
I went to visit the library with my dad, and I went to hold his hand, and it was another man.
Oh God! Yeah.
I don't know why I'm remembering that, but that's what's come up.
That's interesting. Yeah.
The library was a very still, peaceful place. I loved going to the library. Because it was so quiet, and the man looking at me and going, basically, he wasn't like, he didn't take my hand, he was like recoiled.
It's probably for the best.
He had the same jacket on as my dad, you know.
So, thinking about the water wave itself, the tsunami, It's interesting that you don't generally experience the tsunami. It's just sort of things happened in the past. Do you remember ever seeing like stuff about a tsunami on the television?
Oh yeah,
Or,
yeah. I mean, they terrify me as though they do. The sea generally scares me.
Okay. Yeah.
I find the sea, I think it's the size of it, the fact that you can be on the sea and not see any land anywhere. Whereas I love deserts.
Okay.
I've got a real attraction and I'm drawn towards the desert. Weirdly, desert makes me feel safe. Sea makes me feel vulnerable.
Okay. So I suppose the only other thing to think about is the isolation part of it.
Yeah.
Is that something that's... I mean, are you somebody who finds it difficult to be on their own? Or?
No, I love it.
Yes.
I love it. But that's, I suppose, that's not to say, I love being with my wife as well. But, I do like my alone time. I don't necessarily remember being scared in the dream now that I think about it. It was more when I was in the big crowd of people that I think I felt more overwhelmed. But also sort of quite liking the quiet. I know this is so obvious. It's not going to be a difficult job for you.
I feel bad charging you now.
Have you done many of those then?
I haven't done that for, I would have said, at least 25 years.
Really?
Yeah,
God.
maybe close to 30.
Did you have to do that as part of your training, your course?
Not as well. It wasn't. It was one of those things you could choose to do or not.
Right.
I sort of went that path because a lot of people hate listening to other people's dreams.
I feel overwhelmed by life, and that's what my dream represents. It's not an epigenetic or ancestral memory, it's how I feel, swamped, washed away, and out of my depth. But why? And why couldn't I shake the feeling that it still had something to do with my hunter-gatherer ancestors? I hope that learning more about how they lived might teach me more about myself.
If I was standing here in the Vale of Pickering 11,000 years ago, I would at the very least have wet feet. I mean, they'd probably also ask, why are you wearing those funny trousers and that voluminous shirt? This was a lake known as Lake Flixton during the Mesolithic. 11,000 years ago, the world was changing. What was Doggerland had started to become submerged due to the melting glaciers. This area was, or the lake, was created by those self-same meltwaters. Nearby to here is an area known as Carr, which is Britain's most important Mesolithic site. And it was a settlement on the banks of Lake Flixton that they started excavating, I think around decade ago, 10, 11 years ago, and they found massive amounts of preserved organic material, including a huge wooden platform that extended out onto the lake, presumably for fishing. But they've also found evidence of dwellings, these cool antler helmet things, loads of those that they don't quite know what they were for, whether they were ceremonial in some way, whether they were for hunting, to disguise yourself as a deer, or whether they were just like party hats. Nobody knows, but they found a lot of them. What they think is that Carr was a seasonal settlement that tribes of hunter-gatherers would follow the migrating deer herds, but it was kind of like a bothy like they have up in Scotland, so it was sort of an area where they could sort of stop and spend a few months or half the year or whatever, fish in the lake, hunt the deer, hang out with people that they knew as they were passing through. But it got abandoned when this lake we're standing in, believe it or not, started to dry up or drain away, becoming muddy, which is sort of how everything was sort of preserved underneath. So although we can't directly excavate Doggerland, this area and Carr was around at the same time, so it's sort of the closest that we can get to understanding what life would have been like in that age. With Doggerland at the time would have been basically marshy, full of lakes and hills and just lower lying. I mean, for all we know, the people that came here may have lived part of the year as well in Doggerland and kind of escaped the sort of rising waters by coming further inland to higher ground. The Tsunami Museum in Scarborough, which is a tall round museum where they've kept some of the artefacts that they found at Carr, including some of the frontlets that I think people wore as headdresses. I did listen to a podcast where they said maybe they just hung them up as decoration, but they don't know. That's ultimately it. They don't know with this stuff, and not least because so much has been lost still. But the thing that is really fascinating about Mesolithic life, similar to Neanderthals, is how they're realising they were much more sophisticated than they previously thought, even as recently as sort of 10 years ago. They're realising they were much more technologically advanced for the time. They didn't have computers and stuff, but well, obviously, it was a stupid thing to say. But you know, they weren't just like and like hitting each other over the head with rocks and dragging their wives off to caves. What did they do with them in the caves? They didn't do that anyway. This might be the worst or laziest nickname I think of anyone ever given. William Strata Smith, who was created the first geological map of England and Wales. I would have got away with that if you hadn't picked up on it.
Just saying what everyone was thinking.
Geological. Leave a comment below if you were thinking that before Sanya interrupted. Geological map of England and Wales, and they nicknamed him Strata. I come from Doggerland. Thing is, though, people these days, they like to romanticise the idea of seasonal migration. Mate, we're not migrating, we're running away from the bloody tsunami. Doggerman. My wife and I, we're two completely different people. I'm a hunter, she's a gatherer, which, let's face it, is just another word for hoarder. Doggerman. Doggerman. We used to have one of them Neanderthals living next door. You ever met someone whose forehead arrives 10 minutes before they do? Doggerman. Neanderthals. Kill losers. Hate them.
Humans were hunter-gatherers for approximately 90% of our existence, moving with the seasons, tracking animals, foraging plants, and adapting to the rhythms of the natural world. But around 10,000 years ago, everything began to change. In parts of the Near East, people started to plant crops, domesticate animals, and settle in one place. And with it came a radical transformation. Villages became permanent. People built monuments, developed new tools, and began to reshape the land itself.
But this new way of life brought challenges. Diets narrowed, social hierarchies emerged. Harder physical labour and exposure to domesticated animals led to changes in health and disease. The shift to farming marked a turning point, not just in technology, but in our relationship to each other.
Now, sure, I don't know a lot about Norfolk, but to explain what goes on here.
Where would you pump your horses in London? You've got a horse, it desperately needs pumping. Where would you take it to?
Back alleys.
We like it more official here. So Horsey Pumping Station, literally the place is called Horsey.
Horsey.
Not just for things that look like horses. And it's literally a pumping station. It will pump the water out. So, yeah, there is less water in the land, basically.
I didn't know that's what. Do you know what? That didn't cross my mind. I thought it was some sort of water mill.
No, you have got a windmill here for the water on that. My understanding is it's all to do with, all to do with drainage.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it doesn't flood. It's the problem with the area being very flat. It floods quite easily.
Do you know what your ancestry is? Does it go back a long way in Norfolk? Do you know?
It goes back to Suffolk. Somewhere on my father's side. My mother's side was pretty much all Norfolk, yeah.
So you could be a Doggerland descendant.
Maybe. Oh. How would I find that out?
I don't know, because the trouble with Doggerland, the people that lived there, I mean, although it changed massively, and there were sort of periods where it was not inhabited because of the various ice ages and things, but a lot of them were, it was just migration, really. And then eventually, when it all got cut off, some of them just migrated to this side.
Stuart, do you have a fear of the sea?
No.
Have you got any fears?
Yes.
What's your biggest fear?
Do you promise not to use them against me?
Maybe. I don't know. It depends if it's funny or not.
Yes.
If it's a funny fear, maybe. If it's like celery.
We must never go to war. You know too much. Has to be a strategic imbalance.
Yeah, no, what are you...
Heights. Very bad with
really?
heights. Yeah,
okay, well, that's quite hard to use against you, unless I kind of winch you up somewhere.
Yes. Just run up behind me and throw me.
Are you kidding? Yeah, that's quite hard. Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could blindfold someone and kind of go, we're not in an elevator. These aren't stairs. I know they feel like stairs going up, but they're not. You're scared of everything, aren't you, Sanya? That's your main fear is everything. Yeah. Now, Sarah, I wanted to come here because this is what I believe was a very similar landscape to what Doggerland would have been like back in the day. But then I found out that it's not actually natural. This isn't natural. Well, how did these form?
So actually, they thought it was natural up until the 1950s,
Wow.
when they were discovered actually that it's from peat digging. So between the 12th and the 14th century, peat was used for cooking and for heating, and it was slowly starting to fill with water, and so they were abandoned in the 14th century, and then it's filled up with water, and you have the Broads that we have today.
Wow. There's someone on a boat over there. Look, we were way in from the coast. So was it? I mean, it's stupid. Rain.
Yeah. So basically, it's really. So if you've ever seen peat, where it is, it's really, really keeps on the moisture. It's really wet. So it maintains a lot of that moisture, and so basically it was that then the water was kind of staying within that system. It was slowly filling up with rainwater, and so obviously we're talking about a long period of time that this was happening. So bear in mind they were digging peat, as you can see, it's a huge area for 200 years. So and then so it's slowly starting to basically, when it was slowly filling with water, they basically was becoming harder and harder to actually dig out that peat, and so that was why it was abandoned in the 14th century. Wow. And has become obviously over time the environment that you see in front of us.
This is evidence of sort of agriculture, I guess, and which agriculture is what changed us from hunter-gatherers into what we are today. So this is Redcar Beach. This is as close as we're going to get to what was the last part of Doggerland, which was, after the sea levels rose, there was what became the Dogger Archipelago and then Dogger Island, which is about 60 miles off the coast that way, except now it's called Dogger Bank, which is just a sandbank. But this beach is notable because here you can, at certain times, see remnants of Doggerland, because there is buried under the sand here a petrified forest which is revealed at certain periods of inclement weather. Normally when there's storms, the Beast in the East, if anyone in the UK remembers that from 2013, that exposed the tree stumps that are there. They're all turned to stone now, but basically when there's a big storm at sea, it basically sucks off the beach. And that dates back to about 6,000 BC, so 8,000 years ago or thereabouts, there's crisp bat blown on the beach. Beautiful. So that is likely when the tsunami basically inundated the forest and wiped out a lot of what was still remaining of Doggerland at that point. So I wonder if we're basically walking on Doggerland now. I wonder if any of this is, because I know there's like a peat bed here from the forest that was here. I wonder if this is any of it. Love to see the tree stumps. But anyway, this is the remains of a petrified forest in Doggerland. We need to get nearer. We need to get nearer to Doggerland somehow. I can't scuba dive, so we need to do the next best thing. See that over there? See that tall, weird structure that looks like a helter-skelter?
Yeah.
That's Redcar's famous vertical pier.
Oh, wow. That's unique.
Stupid. It looks like a lipstick, not a dog's lipstick. Actually, it does look a bit like a dog's lipstick. You know what I mean, don't you? I'm talking to them this time. Leave a comment if you know what I mean when I say dog's lipstick. People who've tuned into this go, oh, I really want to learn more about Doggerland. Just ask them, leave a comment. Leave a comment if you know what a dog's lipstick looks like.
Ew.
Talking of dogs, do you know how Doggerland got its name?
Was it covered in dogs? Dog hair, covered in dog hair.
No, and it wasn't.
I don't want to suggest.
Yeah, it wasn't anything to do with dogging either.
Yeah, I didn't want to suggest that, but you know, you never know. 10,000 years ago, what people might have liked doing.
Hang on, wait a minute. They didn't have cars. You need cars for dogging. Oh, right, okay. The Flintstones had cars. Actually, do you think the Flintstones ever went dogging? Barney and Betty in the bushes with Fred and Vilma take the car out to...
Vilma?
Wilma.
Oh yeah, Fred and Vilma.
Okay, is that okay? Starting doing German accents now?
What's wrong with that?
It's probably not okay.
Why?
Cultural appropriation.
What, saying... Well, you said Vilma and I just
By
said
accident.
Vilma.
Okay, because we went to Poland in our last video.
Oh, so now you've got a Polish accent.
Yeah.
But mine was German.
I don't... It wasn't because the Flintstones went dogging that it was called Doggerland. It was because of Dutch fishing vessels were called doggers.
Oh.
And, you know, people have been bringing stuff up from the North Sea for a long time.
Why were Dutch boats called doggers?
Because they had dogs on them. I don't know, Sandy, because they went dogging in their boats. Sea dogging. They went...
It was a genuine question. It's a genuine question.
I don't know, the Dutch word for boat is probably saying like...
And I can't say Vilma.
I said Vilma. You were starting going...
I said Vilma.
Crazy.
Hey, that looks dystopian.
Yeah, it does. I didn't put a ticket on the car because someone was bothering me with her shoe nonsense.
That would have given you the perfect amount of time to get a ticket.
Forgot. I was going to write like our channel name and the sound and write subscribe and...
Oh, okay, do it.
No, because now you need a wee. I'm starting to need one.
I can
and
wait.
also we didn't put a ticket on the car.
Oh, we'll put a ticket on the
Also, there's
back.
no sticks. You'd think there'd be some sticks here, given the Doggerland's out there. Try writing it with seaweed.
No, no, no. Good shot. No, 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 no!
Oh, very good. Now I've just written dick in the sand.
Dig.
No,
Dig.
I didn't even finish the G, so it just looks like I've written dick. Can I just write dick in the sand, Sanya?
You don't need my permission. The pride. Look at this pride.
I'm not proud of it. Not remotely proud of it. We've got to get out there somehow. We've got
Swim?
to get out there. Not swim, I said.
I brought my swimming costume.
Yeah, and then you told me no one was going to be allowed to see you in it.
Well, they don't have to see me in it. I'll be in the water.
I didn't bring mine, and also I'm a terrible swimmer.
Well, we saw loads of people just in their boxer shorts yesterday.
They were, I know, it's disgusting, perverts.
They just looked like swimming shorts.
No, there's a clear delineation between swimming costume and boxer shorts. One is made for swimming, the other is made for private use. And he was wearing boxer shorts, that man. He was buying an ice cream in boxer shorts. What a pervert.
If the underwear is black or dark, it doesn't really matter, like if you're swimming in it or not. It's mainly for your comfort because the material doesn't dry as quickly. So that is why swimming costume material is preferable over underwear for swimming in, because it will dry like that in an instant, whereas normal underwear can take a lot longer. And this guy's boxer shorts were black, so really, apart from the band across the top, which had like a designer label on them.
You want to be in it? Go on, we got guests. We just. What's your name?
My name's Craig and I'm from
Oh, whoops, hang on.
Craig from Middlesbrough. Yes.
Craig, wait, what
We
do you
have a
think, like, do you think people who go swimming in their underwear, do you think that's okay?
They perverts. Oh,
like-
now my anxiety spiked because I've had to talk to a stranger.
Your anxiety spiked out of how much out of 10?
7.
7! What happens at 10?
I shit myself. I'm just not good with, I don't know, I mask a lot.
What? How do you, like, can you describe masking to us? Like, how can we tell that you're masking?
Well, look, this is the thing, right? When we went to Creswell Crags, something that she talked about there, the archeologist, was this notion that neurodiversity is
What did he say?
I don't know.
Oh.
That neurodiversity, I don't know what he's doing. He's trying to get our attention again. So he's like, mate. Jesus, why has that happened? She was talking about how neurodiversity is evolutionary. Otherwise, it would have been like evolution would have like kind of gotten rid of it. It really resonated with me that idea that, you know, because Sanya and I, you know, we feel a bit at a loss in what is called adulting. I hate that phrase. You know, that we feel pretty useless in the world.
For most of our time on Earth, neurodiversity wasn't something to diagnose. It was part of how we survived. A wide range of minds, each with different strengths, made early human groups more adaptable and more resilient. But that view began to change. Not because the traits changed, but because the world around them did. In the 20th century, as societies became more industrialized and structured, a narrower definition of what was normal began to take hold. Workplaces and institutions were built around conformity, routine, and social norms. Schools were literally modeled on factories, designed to sculpt children into obedient, ordered worker drones. And in that context, people who thought or behaved differently were increasingly seen not as divergent, but as disordered.
In 1944, Austrian paediatrician Hans Asperger, while working on eugenics programs for the Nazis, described a group of children who showed intense focus, social differences, and highly specialised interests. You saw their traits not as deficits, but as part of a distinct personality type, sometimes even linked to extraordinary abilities. But his work, and others like it, would eventually be absorbed into the growing field of psychiatry, where difference was often framed through the lens of dysfunction. By the late 20th century, terms like Asperger's syndrome and ADHD had become ways to categorise people who didn't fit a standard model of cognition or behaviour, people who didn't fit in. And that's how I felt my entire life.
You didn't explain what you look like when you're masking and what you look like when you're not masking.
Well, I'm masking, I'm a, you know,
Okay, say hi to me when you're masking. Like, hi Paul, how are you?
Hi there. Well,
No, this is you masking.
a good example is when you met me.
Yeah.
You thought I was this super confident kind of, you know, rugby guy, a bit of a player, a bit of a, you know, and then you got to know me and you realise I'm just a mess. She laughs because it's true. You thought I was this.
I know.
I'm actually quite shy, but people think I'm confident. Partly because I'm 6'2" and built like a sack of bricks. And people, I think, just sort of project onto me that I'm sort of quite confident and quite, you know, outgoing. You thought I was super social.
I did.
And actually, it's the opposite. I'm not social at all. Yeah, I don't mind, you know, I love it when we sort of meet people that watch us, or, you know, so don't ever be afraid to talk to us if you see us. That's always lovely. But I do a lot of paddling under the surface, and I know you do as well in social situations, particularly. It's a lot of that was on the surface. You're just like, yeah, that's masking. You know, they learn skills rather than things that are, you know, inherent. Yeah, and we've been talking a lot recently about, you know, Sanya is diagnosed ADHD. Let's face it, ADHD, but undiagnosed. I don't really feel the need to get diagnosed, but you know, recently we've both been kind of thinking, well, have we got other neurodiversity going on? And then there's also that part of me that goes, what does it matter? It's society that has decided that we are quote unquote neurodiverse. I'm gonna smell it first.
Oh my God, he's actually doing it.
Calm. It's actually it's a lot stiffer than you expect.
Try the one under here.
I can't get the problem is my shoulders.
They're too broad, huh?
I've got something in my head. Oh, what is that? It's not going to work, is it? It's worth a try. So we thought, you know, to get me to confront my fear of the deep ocean and to get a bit closer to Doggerland, that we'd hire a boat and go out onto the North Sea.
Which boat is it?
The Mary Ellen 2. I've been talking to this guy for a few weeks about renting his boat, and we're going to be going tomorrow morning, and we've come here now. Firstly, the boat's a lot smaller than I expected, but there's something worse about it for both of us, Sanya.
What?
The guy I've been talking to said we're going to be on the boat with two men called Simon and Billy. And there's not a lot, we can't hide from them on there. That means we've got to be sociable. But not only are they going to be right there and seeing us doing filming, which I hate people watching us film, I can't. It's that if I've got a greater fear than like tsunamis, it's having to be sociable with people I don't know that well, make small talk and stuff. The guy already doesn't understand why we're filming.
What on earth possessed you to hire a tiny boat? We could have just hired a rowboat.
We're not hiring a rowboat onto the North Sea. So this video, like, where we're trying to like find out about ancestral memory and whether that's been in there, maybe my Neanderthal ancestors were socially awkward. Maybe that. Christ, this is going to be awful. So awkward. A small boat with Billy and Simon and just you and I while we're trying to record a video. They don't understand it. They were like, oh, this is the first time we've ever had a film crew on the boat.
It's not a film crew. Oh my God, they actually said that.
Yeah, it was like, I've not taken a film crew out before. There's us with our freaking Osmo Pocket. On that thing.
And iPhone. It could have been this bigger boat.
At least, yeah, I know that's
then
way
you'd
better.
have somewhere to
I know, but that
hide.
would have been twice as much. I haven't got the money for a big boat.
That's true. We don't even need...
www.patreon.com/Mr. Biffo if you'd like to support us making these stupid videos in which we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations where we have to make small talk with fisher boatmen. Also, Billy and Simon could do anything to us out there. We'd be at their mercy.
Oh, don't say that. Have you seen that film with
seamen.
Billy Zane? Oh my God, same name. And he killed Nicole Kidman out on the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen that?
These are a couple of seasoned seamen. This is worse than anything we have done. We've been chased by the police looking around military bases. We've been to Hitler's house. Check out some of these videos down. I don't know where they are. I don't know how to do that. I didn't know they were going to bring Billy. He told me just Simon was coming.
Maybe he didn't trust us.
Now Billy's coming.
He might not have felt safe with us.
Who's Billy? Billy.
Billy from Stranger Things.
Okay, well, what a reference. Not even a sailor.
Maybe he might be a sailor now.
Again, brilliant banter. Thanks, Sanya, for your fantastic banter. I don't know if it's the original, but I have a vague memory of going on that pirate ship when I was a kid.
What?
On the bay, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
What did you do on it?
What do you mean, what did I do on it? I got scurvy. What do you think I did on it? I was a child. It's not a real pirate ship, Sanya. I didn't walk the plank. I didn't kind of hoist the main brace and scrub the mizzen mast. do a shit on the poo deck. Probably would have done back then. I used to hold my poo in too long.
You're seriously telling everyone this? Are you seriously saying
I
this
used to
on
have to go
camera?
like that up against the wall because I used to hold it in
Wait,
too long. Don't
hang
get run over, please. Got such a knot in my stomach, Sanja.
Oh no.
You?
Not that much.
Really?
Yeah.
But you're even more socially awkward than I am.
I know. I don't understand. I think it's just like I like boats.
Oh God, there it is. Oh, Jesus, there's two fellas there. Okay.
Oh God. Okay.
It's awful. Watch me go into masking mode.
What's your masking mode?
Right, guys. Are you Simon? Billy? Simon's on board.
All right.
Hi, yeah, I'm
Hi.
all right. Good to meet you.
You.
Oh, hi.
Hiya.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning. Hiya. All right.
All right.
Yeah, I'm Paul. All right, that's Sanya.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah. So the skipper just told us that these things are surveying the seabed for the. By the way, so far it's fine. Quite.
So far, what?
It's all fine. They're nice cat.
Yeah.
That's surveying the seabed for the pipelines instead of wind farms. Made by Thales, who also manufacture weapons, drones. That's probably why they did that, because it's a sea drone, isn't it?
Oh, that's a sea drone. What the heck?
Oh, the knives.
I'm going to catch them all when we get back now.
It's us at sea with two men we don't know, seamen, but they've got a load of knives on board.
Oh, here we go. Yikes.
You Billy? Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Do you mind being on camera? Do you mind being on camera? You're okay with it? Okay, cool.
That wind's gone up a bit now.
Yeah.
I'm only like this.
Yeah, so. Out here and knowing what's under us makes me feel a bit weird. I've genuinely got a bit of a weird feeling. I can't be more specific than that. But knowing this was land freaks me out.
Yeah.
They were like woolly mammoths, and that's why I wanted to do this, because that notion of, it's such a classic idea, the idea of a lost land. And looking out there and seeing how massive it is. The sea, I don't like it. I honestly, it turns me. I
Yeah.
can finally get that smell off my fingers. Smell of fish now. What is great is the boat's so noisy, it doesn't matter about social anxiety.
Exactly.
It's like we're all in a cocoon of noise.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I might put my jacket on.
I'm aware that Billy, thanks for that, in the middle of me doing a
sorry.
take.
Sorry.
I'm aware that Billy does keep watching us.
Yeah, but that's okay.
I did notice they didn't offer us life jackets.
Oh no.
Even when we went out on the Lake District, watch that video in the description. They gave us life jackets.
Scale of 1 to 10, how much dread are you feeling right now?
Right now less, because we're starting to head towards some cliffs. I mean, actually that sounds bad now that I've said it out loud. But we're gonna go and look for some seals. Sanya's desperate to see seals, so we're going to go and look for these seals. And as we get closer and closer to the land, I feel more at ease.
Yeah, you could probably swim this distance.
I couldn't.
Oh, these cliffs are amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I wonder how far back they've gone in the last, 9,000 years. We're headed for a buoy, or as the Americans call it, a buoy.
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 Buoy. You have to say it like that if you're American. Isn't that right? Americans, leave a comment below why you all say buoy. Also leave a comment below if you've ever been on a boat.
What's your favourite
Leave a comment below if you're watching this video.
What's your favourite type of boat?
Gravy boat.
Gravy boat.
And all these cliffs are eroding away, you know, when the rain, all the rain we have, and everything like that.
You see it.
Yeah, that one there is a fresh one from the last storm we had.
No.
Yeah.
God, yeah, it's just really come down, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
So do you have equipment to tell you how deep the water is at any points?
Yeah, it's this. That's me, my depth finder.
Right.
Tell me what's underneath the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's my sat nav.
Okay.
And
it's got the whole topographic thing.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's
God,
amazing.
you can
That's why
actually see.
I've come there, because you see them red bits, they're coming up, they'll be nearly just under the surface of the water.
Right.
That's why I can't get any closer.
Okay.
Oh,
So that's where we are.
wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
So that's the boat, the red.
That's the boat there, yeah.
This is a stupid question probably, but I know trawlers bring stuff up from the bottom. Has that ever happened on one of your trips? Like kind of bits of wood or?
I've had bits of wood, you know, when I've been on a wreck and sunk.
Oh yeah.
I've had bits of wreck come up and.
Oh wow.
You know, big
No way.
steel plates about this big. The hooks caught it and when it's been riveted.
Yeah.
No.
The hooks caught the rivet all, and they thought it was a good fish, and it was a big steel plate about that big, and
No.
Wow.
the sea enemies and everything that was on it. And we'll just let it go back in, and that's a submarine.
What?
What?
That's a submarine.
No way.
Yeah.
That's insane. How far out is that?
That's only 4 mile.
Only 4 miles.
Only 4 mile from the coast.
Hang on, is it an abandoned submarine or it's No.
People on it. It's a World War II.
Oh wow.
No way. Do you see them often?
Well, we can't see them because I think there's a few divers that I've took out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they've been trying to get into it and they don't open it because they don't know what gas is still trapped inside.
Oh yeah. Well, it could have explosives.
Yeah. Still torpedoes on it. And
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, I know.
So looking at that sonar, all that topographic map, that was Doggerland. We saw it under the water.
I know.
I mean, I'm assuming they didn't have submarines in Doggerland times. Also, why would they? Because it wasn't underwater. But it was weird. I feel utterly emotional. I'm such a snowflake, I tell you. That was the whole point of this video. I've been researching it for bloody ages, and then we saw it.
Yeah.
You know, we got to see it down there. And that's true. I did find it weirdly emotional being that close to Doggerland. I'd hoped that I'd find answers to my tsunami dream in a lost land, and I had, but not in the way I'd expected. The wave in my dream wasn't a literal wave of water. It represented how I'm buffeted by the tides of the world and how much I yearn for something simpler, quieter and more authentic. I feel swamped every single day by things like paperwork and finances and DIY, by the anxiety-inducing expectations of a society most of us aren't evolved for. Modern humans emerged 300,000 years ago, and we've lived as hunter-gatherers for 90% of that time. Agriculture, the bedrock of today's world, only appeared about 10,000 years ago. The modern age only really began with the Industrial Revolution. Now, with the internet, social media and AI reshaping everything again, we're living through another seismic shift, another tsunami. It's no wonder so many of us don't feel like we fit. I was born with a specific set of abilities that belong to a world that no longer exists. Alright, it might not have been a long life back then, and I'd have probably ended up burning the cave down, but at least now I know the problem isn't with me, and it isn't with you. So who am I? Doggerman!